My 1978 Toyota Land Cruiser has a custom Aqualu aluminum tub. Every inch of this body is customized, from the dashboard layout to the fenders and bib. Today, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show how the body of this Land Cruiser came together. At the end, I will show how I finished the build by having a custom soft top made without using traditional bows. This video is the third chapter in a longer series. I covered the chassis and suspension in part 1, and I walked through the entire drivetrain in part 2. Everything was built to take this FJ40 from highway cruising to rock crawling. This chapter, the focus is entirely on the body, how it was repaired, modified, and painted, shaping the cruiser's final form. In late 2020, while sitting in a cabin my wife and I had rented, we were discussing activities that would allow us to social distance. Rebuilding the Land Cruiser had always been on my bucket list, but time and resources had been limited. Suddenly, though, I had weekends completely free, and I decided that it was finally time to tackle this project. I didn't know it yet, but sourcing parts would become a major challenge throughout this project, with back orders lasting up to 18 months. I considered quitting several times as the project ran over budget and behind schedule, but I kept moving forward, adjusting my expectations along the way. Prior to the rebuild, this Land Cruiser had spent 20 years as a budget build. The setup included a small block Chevy engine, a used SM465 transmission from a mid-70s wrecker, a factory transfer case, axles, gears, and a rear Detroit locker. Plus, I installed a custom spring-over suspension lift with Alcan springs and 35-inch tires. I added 70,000 miles to the previous 190,000. This truck was never a showpiece. It was a family and utility vehicle that hauled firewood, camping gear, and it took us to our cabin in southwestern Colorado. It had earned every single dent and scratch on it. The disassembly began with removing the engine, front clip, and wiring. This revealed just how much work that the body would need. I started by welding shut all of the holes that would no longer be used in the firewall, keeping the fumes and additional drafts out of the cruiser. The rear body was completely shot. I cut out the fender boxes for another stretch project down the road, and I scrapped the rest. The final image shows the cowl, hood, and windshield sitting on the frame of my garage as I had nowhere else to store them. It would remain like this for 2 years while I worked on the rest of the project. The underside of the hood was stripped and prepped for paint. I used seam sealer to bond the hood to its supports, applied primer, and sprayed 2 coats of Raptor liner. Next, I fabricated 2 rocker panels using my Swag Off-Road press brake and spot welded them into place. Once that was roughed in, I addressed a crack in the windshield frame that had broken during a snowstorm in the late 1990s. For 25 years, I had held the wiper arm in place with a scrap of metal that I found by the road. It was strong enough to allow the wipers to push the snow off the windshield, but it was time to replace it. I tack welded the cracked section as a template, transferred the shape to a fresh piece of sheet metal, and then spot welded that metal into place. The tub was custom ordered from Aqualu Industries in Canada. Their standard tub would not work with my setup, since the inner fender wells had to accommodate the 40-inch tires. They lengthened the inner fender wells by 6 inches, raised them 4 inches, and added custom enclosures to wrap around the coilover towers. Because my original tub had already been removed, I borrowed a scrap tub for measurements. I was excited the day that the tub arrived at the shipping yard in Denver, but I also knew that there was long nights ahead to prep the body for installation, as I didn't have anywhere to store it other than on the cruiser. I sanded the body with 80 grit, primed it with Eastwood 1:1 epoxy gray, and applied 4 coats of lizard skin, sound control, and ceramic insulation to the underneath and the inside. The inside was finished with 3 gallons of Raptor liner. This was way overkill, but I wanted to reduce heat and noise. These products work really well to reduce heat and noise, though I plan to add a few additional layers of DEI heat shield and sound deadening before having established 28 upholstery install the custom carpet. I worked hard to retain the original fenders, but my axle position and tire size made that very difficult. After a few failed attempts, I built custom front fenders using 1.5" tube bent and laid over the stock fender to retain the factory look. I removed the outer fender and bent the tube supports to connect the original inner fender supports to the tubing. Then I wrapped 16-gauge sheet metal around the fenders, spot welded it all the way around, and ground the weld smooth. I learned that I didn't need to get it that smooth and perfect. In fact, I ground one spot of the sheet metal on the left fender way too thin, and it has since cracked. Once the fenders were covered, I created inner fender pieces to complete the assembly and give it a solid and finished look. My tires were still rubbing against the front clip, so I cut and welded it at a steeper angle below the headlights to provide clearance. Not a single person has commented on this, so this must be a real subtle addition. I wanted to keep the classic FJ40 appearance while maximizing tire clearance and keeping the center of gravity low. The frame was lifted only 3 to 4 inches, but the fenders were raised 5 to 7 inches to clear the 40-inch tires. The rear fenders were easier to fabricate. I bent the same 1.5" tubing around the fender shape. Then I welded brackets fabricated from 1/8" plate to create a hidden mounting surface. The left side around the fuel filler door was more complicated. If I could go back, I would have lengthened the body 18 inches to provide more space in the rear. Packaging the suspension, fenders, and fuel filler was a challenge, but I made it fit by cutting the notch in the fender flare to clear the fuel door. The transmission tunnel is one of the more exciting parts to build. The factory tunnel and the one from Aqualu were too short to cover my transmission and transfer case. I started by bending a 1-inch wide metal strap along the top of the mounting surface against the firewall. Then I used leftover gear marking paint to mark the bolt holes from the engine compartment. Once the mounting plate was bolted in place, I used a cardboard template to outline the tunnel on a 1/8" piece of steel plate, and I bent that plate using the Swag off-road press brake. I built the tunnel into 3 pieces, which was not ideal, but I was limited to 19 inches at the time. I wanted to modernize the dashboard by removing the outdated ashtray and cigarette lighter. I also added a double-din radio to the center so the screen would be easier to see and could be used for navigation. The original radio section had been cut with tin snips over 30 years ago, and restoring it to factory spec would have taken significant work. Instead, I enlarged the opening and installed a modular rocker switch panel from OTR Switch Guys. I installed a few factory switches along with additional switches from Vintage Air on either side of the radio, creating a clean, functional layout while preserving the character of the cruiser. Stripping the cruiser's body down for paint was a turning point. After the long days of metal repair and body shaping, it was time to prep for paint. I sanded with 80 grit to expose every surface, wiped it down with a prep solvent, and made sure that contaminants and dust were gone before moving forward. With the surface clean, I moved into the body filler and primer phase. Epoxy primer was applied to protect the panels from rust and to give a solid foundation for the Eastwood body filler. I let those coats dry fully, then scanned the surface for low spots and imperfections. Body filler was skimmed on where needed, block sanded with an 80 grit crosshatch pattern, and rechecked with guide coat so that I could see every low point clearly. I didn't get too crazy with this step as I wasn't going for a show cruiser look. I wanted something that looked nice and that I wasn't afraid to take off-road. Once I was satisfied with the panels, I added an additional coat of epoxy primer to seal the bare metal, followed by a high build primer surfacer. Every layer was block sanded, moving progressively through finer grits until the surface was uniform and ready for color. The base color was sprayed in medium wet coats with proper overlap, paying very close attention to the edges and jams for even coverage. Painting the cruiser in the garage made it impossible to get every spot perfect, but it turned out pretty good. I applied 5 coats of high solids urethane Premier Show Clear, primarily for a strong protective layer. The paint job is not yet finished, and this year I plan to wet sand and buff through progressively finer grits until the clear reflects the glass. I waited a week before starting to assemble the body to allow the paint to cure. Seeing the cruiser come together was exciting. Each weekend, it began to look more and more like a Land Cruiser again. I installed the Dakata Digital RTX instrument cluster, which mimics the factory layout while adding some impressive upgrades, such as lighting, ambient temperature readouts, and the OBD2 connectivity to the engine, which gives me real-time access to engine vitals. The best part is how they recreated the quirks of the original cluster, with the numbers jumping and binding as the odometer turns. It is so cool. Next, I installed the steering wheel, brake, and clutch pedals and ran the wiring throughout the cruiser. I began installing the factory front turn signals, despite solid advice from the I Hate Mud community. With the higher fenders, the original signals looked oversized, kind of like those giant snowplow lights that you see on trucks. I later replaced those with a dual function light from Oxbeam, which combines the turn signal, the running light, and the fog light in one sleek package. It's pretty slick. Finally, I backed the Land Cruiser out of the garage for the first time since the project began. Seeing all the work come together was incredible, and I was so excited to be nearing the finish line, even though I had a long road ahead. Although I had taken the cruiser for spins close to home, I knew that I needed a roll cage for safety before I took any long-distance trips. My seatbelts required solid mounting points, and I wanted protection in case of a tip-over. I pulled the original hardtop out of hibernation, mocked it into place, and temporarily lengthened it to finalize the cage design. With a friend helping me in CAD, we created a family-style cage with a halo that blended into the A-pillars with a subtle slant-back profile towards the rear. Cutting and mocking tube in place was a blast, and some of that tube became part of the permanent structure. Once the cage was done, I explored custom soft top options and eventually connected with Manny from Established 28 Upholstery. He took on the challenge of building a canvas stay-fast top to fit tightly around the cage, lowering the top 3 to 4 inches and giving the cruiser a truly custom look. The sides and back unzip completely, leaving a family-style top that offers shade and a nice breeze. After finishing the top, I took the Land Cruiser on a 4,000-mile road trip across Colorado, hitting more than 2 dozen trails and reconnecting with old friends while meeting a lot of new ones. That adventure inspired me to revamp this YouTube channel and open my Etsy store to share memories from the trip. I plan to add an Insta360 camera and maybe even a drone to my gear in the near future, so stay tuned. In the next video, I will show you exactly how I built the rock sliders, the rear tire carrier, and those skid plates. These key components of the build were designed for both protection and function, and I will walk you through the process, challenges, and the custom touches that make them work with this Land Cruiser. Manny is going to finish the interior, which will be featured in the final video, a complete walkthrough that highlights the finished interior and wraps up the entire build series. There are quite a few adventures planned for the near future. We have several 2026 trips that are planned across Colorado, Utah, and possibly into Wyoming. And we're already starting to plan our 2027 trips, which will take us to the Rubicon and Fordyce in California, with plenty of routes to explore along the way. Make sure to subscribe, as I'm aiming to get 500 subscribers by June of 2026. And reaching that goal helps push these videos further out into the YouTube community. Plus, if you want a keepsake from our travels this year, you can now grab a coffee cup or a Land Cruiser clock from my Etsy store. Use the code CRUISER5 to get a 5% off through January. There is a lot more coming, and I can't wait to share it with you. Thanks for watching. Talk soon. Bye for now.